He just wanted to eat his lunch in peace, that's all. But to one man wearing a badge, an old black man enjoying baked salmon by a window, looked like a threat. Yeah, that happened. It was one of those quiet afternoons in Westwood, Alabama. The kind where the breeze feels like it belongs in a poem, where the streets hum, soft and lazy beneath the sun. Inside the Willow and Vine Café, the scent of fried catfish and warm biscuits curled through the air like an old song. Retired Colonel Elijah Merrick sat at his usual table, far corner, facing the window, back to the wall, not out of fear, but habit. 36 years in uniform taught him some instincts don't fade. Neither does posture. He wasn't wearing his medals. Didn't need to. You could tell from the way he moved slow. Sure. Deliberate. Good afternoon, Colonel. The hostess, May, said with a bright smile. Window seat again. Yes, ma'am, Elijah nodded. Just me today. He sat down, ordered salmon. Light sweet tea, no ice. Devon. The waiter, a lanky college kid with more energy than grace, nearly dropped the menu again. Elijah chuckled, shook his head gently. Take your time, son. Outside, people moved like they had time. A father carried his daughter on his shoulders. A florist arranged sunflowers on a sidewalk cart. Life, in its simplest form. Then came the boots. Not loud by design, just by ego. Two plainclothes officers entered first. Their eyes swept the room with clinical coldness. Then came Chief Landon Pierce. Broad chest, stiff jaw. The kind of man who walks like the floor owes him thanks. He didn't look at the cafe. He looked through it. And when he saw Elijah, sitting calmly with a cloth napkin folded across his lap, something in him flared. Pierce strode straight toward him. You're in the wrong seat, he barked. Elijah didn't look up right away. He took one last sip of his tea. Beg your pardon. That table's reserved. No one said so. I'm saying it now. The cafe fell quiet. Jazz faded into the background like someone turned the volume down on life itself. Pierce leaned in closer. You people think you can just sit wherever you want these days. Elijah slowly raised his eyes, not in fear, not in anger, just calm. The kind of calm that came from war zones and dusty outposts halfway around the world. The kind of calm you earn by surviving everything except bitterness. With respect, Chief, Elijah said, I fought for this country long before you learned to press starch into that shirt. You may wear a badge, but you don't own this room. Pierce stiffened. His jaw ticked. Somewhere near the kitchen, a phone screen lit up. Someone had started recording. I asked nicely, Pierce growled. Don't make me ask again. No need, Elijah said. You've already embarrassed yourself once. Pierce's hand hovered near his hip, not quite on the holster, but close, too close. That's when a woman stood up near the back. Lisa, an off-duty nurse who came in every Thursday after shift. She spoke up, voice shaking but firm. He's done nothing wrong. Leave him alone. Pierce turned on her like a dog, snapping at kindness. You want to be part of this. She faltered. Her hands shook. Her lips moved, but no sound came. Then she looked at Elijah, eyes full of apology, and quietly sat back down. Her fingers curled into fists on her lap. Devon dropped a glass in the corner. Shattered on tile. No one flinched. Then a man near the door, one of the regulars, someone who usually laughed a bit too loud, muttered under his breath. Should have just moved. Old man. A few nodded in silent agreement. Others looked away. But then the twist. A younger man stood up near the window, early 30s. Quiet. Sharp cut to his jaw. Tattoo of the 82nd Airborne peeked out from under his sleeve. I know who he is, the man said, loud enough for the room. Colonel Merrick saved my father's unit in Iraq. He doesn't need to move. We do. Silence. Even Pierce blinked. You sure about that? Pierce snapped. Yes, the young man said, stepping forward. And if you lay a hand on him, you're not just disgracing a veteran, you're proving everything people say about men like you. Phones were out now, dozens, live streaming, already climbing past 20,000 viewers. Pierce looked around, realized what was happening. Realized this wasn't a room anymore. It was a spotlight. "You think you scare me," he said through gritted teeth. "No," Elijah answered softly, "but you scare yourself. That's why your hand shakes." Pierce lunged fast, sudden, like a man trying to reclaim ground already lost. But before he could draw, a plainclothes officer, one of his own, stepped between them. "Chief," he said under his breath, "don't." Pierce froze, his lip curled. He turned, furious, only to see his own deputy holding a badge and a phone. "Sir, this live stream's at 48,000 now. You draw that gun, you'll lose more than your badge." Pierce looked back at Elijah, and for the first time, he didn't look like a chief. He looked like a man unraveling. "Go ahead," Elijah said gently. "Draw it. But then, be ready to explain to your daughter why you reached for fear when you could have reached for dignity." Pierce's fingers twitched, then dropped to his side. He backed away slowly. That's when the cafe doors opened. 2 state troopers entered, quiet, calm, serious. They didn't speak. They just nodded to Elijah, then to Pierce, and walked him out. No applause, no cheers. Just the quiet sound of the door closing behind power that had forgotten its place. The manager came over, placed a fresh glass of tea on Elijah's table with trembling hands. "On the house, sir," he whispered. Elijah nodded once, didn't smile, didn't gloat. He simply returned to his salmon. But outside, the town changed. The footage spread. Headlines flooded the internet. Police chief draws gun on retired war hero. Colonel holds ground with grace. Calm defeats force. People debated it, argued about it. Some praised Elijah. Some defended Pierce. Some said he just lost his cool. Others saw it for what it was, a slow, public unraveling of authority abused. A week later, Pierce sat alone in his garage, uniform packed into a dusty box. No text from his daughter. Friends gone quiet. He kept watching the video and somehow still didn't see what everyone else saw. In his mind, he was the one ambushed, humiliated. But the world had already moved on. Elijah never spoke to the press, didn't post a statement. But when the governor's office invited him to speak at a law enforcement summit, he left the invitation unopened. Because some tables aren't worth sitting at even if you're finally invited. Still, late one night, a boy no older than 12 ran up to Elijah after a community center talk. "How'd you stay calm?" the boy asked. "I'd be so mad." Elijah looked at him, eyes soft. "You breathe," he said. "Even when you want to shout, you breathe. Because the man who controls his breath controls the room." The boy nodded like he understood, even if he didn't. Not yet. That night, Elijah walked home under street lamps that flickered like memories, and waiting on his doorstep was a photo. Grainy, from his military days, a weapon drawn, a wounded boy, a moment stripped of context. No note, just a line typed across the back. Not all stillness is innocent. Someone wanted him rattled, wanted him scared. But instead, he just stared at it, then tucked it inside a drawer right next to his folded flag. Because he knew the truth. And the truth doesn't need a spotlight to stand. It just needs a spine. You think he was right to stay seated? Or should he have stood and walked away? What would you have done? You tell me. Who was right and who was wrong? Leave a comment down below. And if you believe in justice in its quiet, unshakable form, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story.